So in this video, I'm going to explain the differences between the Thoth Tarot and the Rider-Waite-Smith school of tarot. Most of the tarot decks that are out nowadays are from the Rider-Waite-Smith school, whether they're a vampire theme or a goth theme or a housewife theme, what have you. They're based upon the Rider-Waite-Smith school of tarot. Maybe I'll make another video about that. But for now, I'm going to show the differences and compare and contrast the two decks a little bit so you can get a feel for the Thoth deck, what it's about, and how beautiful it is. It's so beautiful. The artwork, the imagery, the colors, it just really speaks to me anyways. I'm not a Thelemite, which is somebody who follows, that's another story, but the religious philosophy created by Aleister Crowley. I just love the deck. And if you're interested in looking at it more or learning more about it, I have links below, and they are affiliate links, but they can help support me and my little channel here. Without further ado, let's get into the video. First off, what's the same between Rider-Waite-Smith school of decks and the Thoth deck is that they are like any standard tarot deck with 78 cards, with the 56 minor arcana and the 22 major arcana, 4 suits of 10 numbered cards, ace through 10, with 4 court cards and 4 elements. But what is different? Oh, and also another thing, an interesting thing, mine are packed away because the original Thoth deck had 3 magicians, which are called the magus. In this Thoth deck, I packed away the other 2 spares somewhere safely. I'm not sure where now, but that's not offered anymore. The thing that is different here, now we're getting into what's different. First thing is that in the major arcana, the Justice card and the Strength card swap positions. In the Rider-Waite-Smith school, the Strength card is number 8 and Justice is number 11, but in Thoth deck it's reverse. 8 is the Justice card and Strength is number 11. Now another difference is that the Strength card in the Thoth deck is called Lust. So let's take a look at a couple of these cards. Okay, so here you see both schools with the Thoth on the left, Rider-Waite-Smith school on the right, Strength and Lust. Also, you notice with the Thoth deck, it's numbered 11, and the Rider-Waite-Smith is numbered 8. So that's one of the main differences. Of course, they're in Roman numerals. Just to date myself, I learned Roman numerals in elementary school. And you also notice the Strength card in the Thoth deck is called Lust. It has it's a similar meaning, but kind of different. I'm not going to get into that here. And also, you see on the Thoth deck, you see the astrological sign at the bottom. On the border, you see the sign for Leo. And as well, you see that little figure on the left. If you're not familiar with that, that's a Hebrew letter related to the Kabbalah. And that's also something I'm not going to get into in this video, but that is another one of the differences with the Thoth deck and the Rider-Waite-Smith is that the major arcana has the astrological symbols on the border at the bottom with the Order of the Golden Dawn is really the association here with the Hebrew lettering from the Kabbalah. That is their system of associations. Another really cool thing I love about the Thoth deck is the back with the Rosicrucian cross. It's just a really beautiful symbol. And it's not made for reading reversals if you use reversals in your spreads, but with this deck, with the depth of some of the cards and the way it resonates, at least with me, you don't really need to use reversals. And if you're new to all of this, the reason I said you could use reversals are when the card is upside down like this. The reason is that when you're looking at the cards after you shuffle them, if you went like that, you would know. If it was reversed, you would know. Whereas a deck with a back like this is neutral. You can't tell if it's reversed or not when you're dealing out the cards. Okay, and going back again to that swap between the 8th and 11th position in the major arcana with Justice and Strength or Lust in the Thoth deck, the Justice card in the Thoth deck, being in position number 8, is also renamed Adjustment. You can see that. and it's still in position 11 in the Rider-Waite-Smith school. Okay, and another difference between the two schools of tarot is with the Temperance card, position 14. In the Thoth deck, it's also the Temperance based on the idea of temperance, but it's renamed art. Although you can still see it has the same idea of that synthesis or blending of the two different elements in the two faces on the figure in the card and the two sort of phoenix lion type mythical creatures at the cauldron or cup at the bottom. All right, one more difference in the Major Arcana is with the Judgment card, position 20 in the sequence. It's called the Eon or Aeon in the Thoth deck. And the Thoth deck, again, at the bottom you can see here they've got it associated with the element of fire, and at the bottom border, and that Hebrew letter, the Hebrew letter Shin, again from Kabbalah. But it's similar, although I'm not an expert on Crowley's philosophy. I do know a fair amount from my studies with tarot and using this deck for many years. But as I said, I'm not a Thelemite or a follower of his philosophy necessarily. But I know that it has a lot to do with the Eon and a new era sort of thing with humanity. And obviously the Eon's a very, very long time period that we can't even imagine, and that does connect with the idea of judgment as well, obviously. So there you can see the differences in the imagery. And just adding another thing about Aleister Crowley is that although I don't necessarily follow his philosophy, I have come across a few things that he said that I found really deep and did resonate with me. And one of them I'm pretty sure was along the lines of everybody does need to find their own way to connect with their higher spirit, their higher self, with God, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. And that's very true. Everybody does. There's no paint by numbers way, that's for sure. Okay, and the Fool card, the number 0, the card that travels throughout the deck. I have to say, in this case, I really love the Rider-Waite-Smith Fool. I don't know if it's just because I'm so familiar with that image. You know, you kind of see it everywhere, but it just says so much as soon as you see it. You don't even have to think about the meaning. The meaning just leaps into your conscious awareness. But with the Crowley one, it's interesting as well when you have to study some of the symbolism, though, esoteric symbolism. Okay, so I'm just going to flip through the Major Arcana for those of you who aren't that familiar with the Thoth deck. If you already are, you can skip ahead to the next chapter, just so you can get an idea of the images. Of course, you can always look at them online, but here you're here already. The Hierophant's one of my favorites. I just love that image. Something about it for me. I also love this chariot image. Wonderful artwork, beautiful, stunning, really, the artwork. Lady Frieda-Harris was apparently a longtime student of sacred geometry as well as being an artist. I love the Hermit too. Really fantastic. And the Wheel of Fortune, the colors, you know, the use of color. And in this system, the Golden Dawn system, which Crowley is a product of, color was a big thing. It's not only a symbol, it's an actual vibration of energy that carries through, travels, and connects your consciousness with the cards and back and forth, vice versa. It's like a connection. Devil card. Kind of interesting. And here we've got the Sun coming up to the Eon, or Judgment, in the Rider-Waite-Smith school. And finally, another I forgot about this. It's called the universe, not the world. All right, so another one of the main differences with the Thoth deck is because the Golden Dawn, this was a secret society or a Rosicrucian society in the Victorian era, basically, and they put a lot of the occult significance that we take for granted today with tarot into the meanings of the cards. However, they saw, for some reason, with their correspondences with different, the way that things associate with the Kabbalah, Hebrew letters, and the name of God, the Tetragrammaton is called, 4 letters, Yod, He, Vav, He, with that cycle, and also the cycle of how a knight becomes a king, and then the king leaves and starts over again, the whole cycle, coming through the princess, marrying the knight, becoming the king, and the whole cycle. So to them, the knight is actually older than the prince. Or sorry, the other way around. Yeah, the knight is older than the prince. So, whereas in most decks it just goes the page, which is the equivalent of the princess in the Thoth deck. Then the prince here, he's actually like a knight in the traditional deck. And then you've got your queen. And then the knight here is like the king in a traditional deck. It's a little bit confusing, so most people just read it as this would be the same as, sorry, the princess would be similar to the page, prince would be similar to the knight, even though this knight is on horseback, he's equivalent to the king, and there's the queen. So that's another major difference. Another difference, I'll use a suit of wands here. Okay, the aces are, we'll leave the aces out. But the numbered cards, 2, 3, the numbered cards don't have human figures in them, like in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which you're familiar with, which even if you don't have a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, as I said at the beginning of the video, you probably have a deck. That's the deck you have, or the decks you use are based quite a bit on the Rider-Waite-Smith and come from the Rider-Waite-Smith school. So you see none of these have any human figures. You also notice that they have a name on the bottom border. Strength, oppression, you know, that's 7 of Wands is valor. This sort of comes from a Hermetic tradition, Hermetic being the Egyptian association and what some of the occultists use, like they would give names to things like the Lord of Unstable Effort, for example, would be the 7 of Swords, or the Queen of the Thrones of Air would be their name for the Queen of Swords. So this isn't quite as fancy, these names, but they are there. And that's another thing I'm not sure if I like, because the cards are so vivid. I love just the geometric shapes and this imagery and the symbolism and the colors already give you a great feeling. And if you know sort of what the numbers mean and what the suit means, you can get more, I find I can get more insight or psychic hits or intuitive hits from it that way. But some people like the names. I'm not sure yet. Still working on whether I like it or not. I've used the deck for so many years, like I said. I kind of tune it out now, but sometimes I've thought about maybe if there's some way to block it off. I said that in another video that you can see. Actually, there's a link to it below, and I'll put a link here now, that if you want to go watch it, I show the very brand new Thoth deck that just is a reprint that just came out this year in 2024. And you can see that one compared to this one. I'm using the US Games version, the version I've had for quite a few years. Oh yeah, and of course, we also have the Golden Dawn astrological correspondences here. You know, we've got the planet Saturn in Sagittarius. All the minor cards have some kind of imagery with the astrological association. They don't have the Hebrew lettering though. Okay, so these ones work differently with the Tree of Life. The minors work differently. They go on what are called the Sephiroth. That's another video for another time if I ever discuss that. But here you've got the Sun in Sagittarius. So final thoughts. I absolutely love the Thoth deck. I'm a big fan. It's a classic and timeless work. It's a masterpiece, really. You know, Crowley was, for all the stories you might hear about him and this and that, he was brilliant with his understandings of esoteric meanings and certain perspectives on life and understandings. I find my readings with it are of a different flavor than when I use decks from the Rider-Waite-Smith school. It seems to go deeper in a certain way. It's often easier for me to enter a non-dual understanding of life as well. If you've never heard that term non-dual, it just means that it's when you don't feel as separate from anything that you see, feel, or hear. Everything feels more alive and rich, a deeper sense of just being, existing. And with my readings with the Thoth deck, it seems to show me how what I'm experiencing on the inside is connected to my situations on the outside. And of course, this helps me to see that in truth, absolute truth, there is no inside and outside. They're both just appearances in consciousness. If you're just beginning, don't worry about all the esoteric stuff, the symbolism, the Kabbalah, and the astrological symbols, unless you really are passionate and excited by it and you really want to dive into it. And if so, you will. But if not, don't let that hold you back from using this deck. This deck is so rewarding and powerful. And again, these are only based upon the Golden Dawn correspondences. There are other schools with different correspondences and different ways of looking at it. So there are a lot of methods and techniques that you can use to add layers of meaning to your readings. But again, if you're just getting started, stick with the basics. And if you'd like my tarot cheat sheet, see below in the description, and you can get that, my tarot cheat sheet for learning tarot quickly in the beginning, giving you a solid foundation and understanding without wading through a bunch of stuff that you don't need to know in the beginning, and just to get started reading. Because really, reading and working with the cards is the best way to learn. So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.